Hello, and welcome to my virtual session on making the most of Journalism 1. My name's Susan McNulty, and I'm the yearbook and newspaper advisor at Mitchell High School. We are over on the west coast of Florida, not too far north of Tarpon Springs. So if you know where that is where we are. And today I'm going to share with you a few of my ideas and some other ideas that I've collected over the years for how to make Journalism 1 more of a project-based course. Now, obviously right now we're in distance learning, so everything's a little bit different, but these are the things that I do in my face-to-face classroom. The first thing that I'd like to do is give you a little session overview. I'll show you what I do to teach the history of journalism, which is how we start off the year, and these bullets are actually in the order, pretty much the order that I go through the year. After history of journalism, we look at law and ethics. Then we do a front page newspaper project. And after that, we do a magazine project and a broadcast news project. And then toward the end of the year, we do a teacher appreciation project. And throughout the year, they work on industry certification. And then at the end of the presentation, I'm going to share with you some online resources that you can use if you don't already know about them. So first of all, the History of Journalism project is what I begin the year with before they've really had any design experience at all. We do a little design lesson so that they know the basics of design, and then they use PowerPoint to design a poster on the history of journalism. They select their topic from a basket, so I've already chosen the topics. Nobody has the same topics. And they design a poster on letter size paper. And they will submit it to me as a PDF, and I'll print it in color in the Media Center's color printer, and then we post them on the wall, and I'll show you in a moment. But before we post them on the wall of the room, the students present them in chronological order. And this allows them to see them throughout the year and allows me, as we're studying different things, to refer back to the history of journalism and call it back to their mind. So these are some of the examples from Gutenberg Press of student work this year, the Stamp Act. And then we go chronologically through, talk about yellow journalism. And as you can see, this is before they really had any design experience. We talk about the Kennedy-Nixon debate. And then we get all the way up to more modern day stories. And finally, as you can see, we post them on the wall in the room along a timeline. And as I said before, I'll refer back to that when we're studying Joseph Pulitzer, and I'll point to the Pulitzer and the Pulitzer Prize, or when we're watching the movie Spotlight, and I'll refer back to it. After we do history of journalism, we look at law and ethics. This is when I review with them the journalism code of ethics, and we talk about the importance of ethics and how it differs from rules and regulations. And then I give each group a different scenario in which they have to discuss and decide which code of ethics were broken. And these are usually very popular things that the students may already be familiar with. For example, when Discovery Channel was doing Shark Week, and they did mockumentaries instead of documentaries, and they definitely did not show only the truth. They were not seeking the truth and reporting it. They were more sensationalizing the news. So we talk about how Discovery Channel violated the code of ethics. After we do that activity, they read Hack Heaven by Stephen Glass. You can get the PDF of the actual story online. And then we watch Shattered Glass. And at the end of the movie, you can find either on the DVD and the bonus features or free online, you can find the 60-minute interview with Stephen Glass. And it's an outstanding look into his mind, and it shows you how true the movie actually does stay to history. I don't like to show a lot of movies in my class because I found that most Hollywood movies take a lot of license with the truth. And it's so important as a journalist to seek truth and report it. So I don't want to show them a Hollywood movie that has not really stayed true to the facts. And I find that Shattered Glass really does. And if you watch the 60 Minutes interview, you'll see that they really do. The other movie I show at the end of the year is Spotlight, and the same goes for that. I watch the Spotlight bonus features, and the people that were interviewed brag about how much the movie truly does tell the story in the same way that it happened in real life. So after they watch the movie Shattered Glass, I have them write a reflection comparing Stephen Glass's experience with some of the scenarios like the Discovery Channel Shark Week that they studied earlier. And at the very end of the lesson, they select a court case and they have to complete 2 slides, one with what happened, the facts of the case, and the other about the outcome of the Supreme Court case. And once again, they select those out of a hat and they submit them, and I only show the best 5. So it's a way of kind of rewarding the best designers and the best researchers. And it also allows me to very quickly give the entire class the background of the cases that they did not research themselves. So that's what we do for law and ethics. That takes about 2 weeks. So history takes about 2 weeks. Law and ethics takes about 2 weeks. And now we're a month into the school year in Journalism 1. And this is when I introduce the front page newspaper assignment. So I instruct the students to choose someone who loves them. I tell them that because the person that they choose, it'll make it very easy for them to get a good interview if they've chosen someone who loves them. I don't allow them to choose a boyfriend or a girlfriend because I warn them that they probably will break up halfway through the project, as most high school relationships do. And so instead, choose someone that this will mean something to. Maybe a mom, a dad, a grandma, a grandpa, an aunt or an uncle, an older sibling, even a younger sibling is all a good choice. And then they have to write interview questions and try and figure out a story angle. So they're not writing a biography or a history of that person's life. Instead, they are narrowing their focus to just one story angle. For example, I had a student write about her older brother who had just joined the Marines, and they did their interviews over phone and FaceTime, and that they were able to focus just on the story angle of why their brother joined the Marines. Someone else did a story of her grandmother and all of her grandmother's favorite recipes that she had handed down through the years and where she got them. Still other students have written about an uncle who they didn't know it, but until they started interviewing their uncle and asking about anything exciting that ever happened to them in their life. But their uncle had actually saved some people from drowning when their car drove into a ditch. And the student didn't know anything about it. So it was an opportunity for that student to learn about it and to write about it. And then I have them narrow down their focus questions to only focus on the angle and then write a feature story with at least 3 direct quotes. After that, I teach them about writing a flag, a headline, subheadline, byline, dateline, photo, caption, all of it, putting it all together using Adobe InDesign. Now you could use really any online program for designing this or even PowerPoint. And they choose the fonts and I teach them about the difference of fonts. And then eventually they put it together. So this is what one of my students looked like. She wrote about her siblings' trip to volunteer in an orphanage. Somebody else wrote about another teenager's journey in traveling. This is actually a look back at her father. I'm reading it. Her father, who was a refugee and came over. So it was the story of the parents' refugee. This is another one about a young student who played soccer at our very school. Here's another story about the student's mother and when she gave birth to their second child. This is about an immigrant, a grandmother who was an immigrant. So as you can see, they learn a lot from this project, more than just interview questions. They learn how to put it all together. And then at the end of this project, the students, I print them for the students in color, and I bring them back to the classroom and we have a giant celebration. and I get frames from the dollar store, and they frame their project. And by this time, it's nearly the holidays. We finished this up right before Thanksgiving. And so they're able to wrap their story in a frame, and it's really magical to see what it looks like once it's in the frame. And they wrap it up and give it to their family member as a holiday gift. So here are some pictures of our wrapping party. So you can see the students holding up their designs and then wrapping them in the frames. And I bring in wrapping paper, and the kids bring in food if they want to have food. And we have a big celebration. So it's a really exciting time. And that takes us all the way up to Thanksgiving break. And then at some point in the middle of fall, we have homecoming. And I take a break from whatever we're doing, wherever we are, and we do a photography project during homecoming week. So we begin with the basic rules of photography, and I put students in groups of 2 or 3, and they can use their own cell phones to take pictures. They can use iPads, which I have in my classroom. I check out a cart of iPads, or some of them actually do learn the DSLR cameras that we have in our room. But for the most part, I just want them to learn the rules of photography, not the stress of having to choose camera settings, but more about where your feet should be and where your camera should be and what the lighting should be, where the light source should be. All of the things you can do right with your own camera phone. So I teach them about worm's eye view and bird's eye view and full body shots. And once again, because this is during homecoming week, there's a lot of really interesting things that happen. So there are more fun things to take care of. Rule of thirds. So that's my photography week. Then after the holidays, we come back and the kids begin a magazine project. This is when they need to interview 3 or more people. So they take their interview skills to the next level, and they find a story angle that they're interested in. A lot of them choose a trip. Some of them choose a hobby. Some of them choose a how to redecorate your room, how to install a stereo in your car. And then they need to interview 3 people and provide instructions. And they also need to make an alternative or a mod copy. So these are some examples of what some students have done. This student created his own travel magazine, and all of this is student work. And so they create a 3-page spread, and they design the cover of their magazine on the first page, and then they do a center spread, which ties more into yearbook than newspaper. So they're getting a little bit of newspaper experience and then a little bit of yearbook experience. And then toward the end of the year, we do a broadcast news project. I don't teach broadcast news, but I recognize how difficult it can be. And I know that some of my journalism students might choose to go into broadcast news after taking Journalism 1. So we do a team broadcast news project where they have to storyboard their entire project, and they divide up their duties and they choose their anchors. They write positive and negative stories. Everything needs to be true. They do a live from the scene project, and then we watch them all in class. And it's a lot of fun to watch them and to experience the difficulties that come with making a broadcast project. Another thing I like to do toward the end of the year is a teacher appreciation project. The students select their favorite teacher or coach, interview that teacher. For background information, they interview at least 2 fellow students, and then they can also interview one of the teacher's colleagues if they want. And then they design their own Time Magazine Teacher of the Year cover. And then after they've designed their Teacher of the Year cover, they create their story for the inside page. And I give these to the teachers as a gift during Teacher Appreciation Week from the student, and the teachers go crazy over it. Students ask me, what should I get my teacher for Teacher Appreciation Week? And I always say the same thing: write them a letter about what they mean to you and what they've taught you. And so some teachers have responded and said this was the best gift they've ever gotten. Another thing we do in our class is industry certification. Adobe InDesign is the certification that I offer in my class. We use Brain Buffet and Gmetrics to practice for it. Those are paid for by our district, and we jump into the CTE umbrella for this. Even though I am in the English department, the CTE department in our district has been gracious enough to allow me to use InDesign as long as I am testing students. And this is an example of a spread that they would make when they're doing those geometrics and brain buffet practices. So you can see it gives them really good design skills. They learn some things that even some of my yearbook students don't know about. There are a lot of online resources from the JEA, CPALMS here in Florida. Journalism Teachers is a group on Facebook where lots of great ideas are, and you may have other ideas as well. And if you do have other ideas to share, feel free to share them out with me, and I'll share them out with anyone else who happens to share. I'm always looking for new ideas in my class, so I would love to have your ideas, and if you have thoughts or feedback on mine, or you would like me to share with you a Google Drive with some of these resources, I would be happy to do that. I wish we were all face-to-face together at FSPA, but this is the next best thing. So thank you to Britt and Adam and all the people at FSPA for putting it together. And I hope you have enjoyed my presentation. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.